There is a version of your life where you retire comfortable, financially secure, and unbothered by money. And there is another version where you spend your final working years wondering where it all went. The difference between those two versions is rarely income. It is rarely intelligence. It is rarely even discipline in the way most people imagine it. The difference in the majority of cases comes down to a single variable that most people never take seriously until it is already gone. Time. Not how much money you started with. Not which stocks you picked. Not whether you had a financial advisor or a perfect budget. Just time. And specifically, whether you used the years you had available to you or whether you waited for a moment that felt more ready, more certain, more convenient. Most people understand, at least abstractly, that investing early is better than investing late. That idea gets repeated constantly in personal finance content, in school presentations, in conversations with parents, but understanding something abstractly and feeling its true weight are two completely different experiences. When someone tells you that starting early matters, your brain files it somewhere between eat more vegetables and floss every day. Important in theory, easy to defer in practice. What almost nobody does is sit down and run the actual numbers, because when you run the actual numbers, the result is not motivating in a comfortable way. It is clarifying in an uncomfortable one. Here is a scenario that is worth sitting with. Two people, we will call them Marcus and Daniel, both earn the same income throughout their careers. Both are reasonably careful with money. Both eventually invest in a simple, diversified index fund that returns an average of 7% annually, which is a conservative estimate aligned with long-term historical market averages when adjusted for inflation. The only difference between Marcus and Daniel is when they start. Marcus begins investing at 25. Daniel waits until 35. Both of them stop contributing at 65. Marcus invests for 40 years. Daniel invests for 30. That single 10-year gap, 1 decade, produces a retirement outcome difference that most people, when they hear it for the first time, genuinely do not believe. If Marcus invests $300 per month starting at 25, by the time he reaches 65, his account has grown to approximately $798,000, assuming that 7% average annual return. Daniel, investing the same $300 per month but starting at 35, reaches 65 with approximately $340,000. The gap between those two outcomes is roughly $458,000, built not from extra contributions, not from better investment choices, not from higher income, but purely from 1 decade of earlier participation. Marcus did not invest more money in total. In fact, the difference in actual dollars contributed between the two is $36,000. But the compounding effect of time transformed that $36,000 head start into a $458,000 outcome gap. That is the math behind waiting, and it is the kind of number that deserves more than a passing mention. What makes this psychological rather than purely mathematical is the reason Daniel waited. Daniel did not wait because he was irresponsible. Daniel waited because waiting felt rational at the time. At 25, there were student loans to manage, rent to figure out, an entry-level salary that felt too thin to divide further. At 28, there was a relationship, a potential move, a career transition that made everything feel temporary. At 32, there was finally more stability, but also a mortgage conversation, a car payment, the general weight of adult infrastructure building up around a life that was still figuring itself out. Every single year that Daniel waited, the reason felt legitimate. And that is the trap. Not laziness, not ignorance, but the perpetual reasonableness of delay. Behavioral economists call this present bias. The human brain is wired to assign significantly more weight to immediate costs than to future benefits, even when the future benefits are mathematically enormous compared to the present costs. $300 a month at 25 feels like a real sacrifice today. The $458,000 it generates over 40 years feels abstract, distant, and frankly unreal to a brain that is trying to manage rent this Friday. This is not a personal failing. It is a neurological design feature that served human beings well for most of evolutionary history, when the future was genuinely uncertain and present resources genuinely mattered more than theoretical future ones. But in the context of modern compounding financial instruments, that same mental wiring becomes a quiet wealth destroyer. The systemic dimension of this problem is worth examining as well, because this is not simply about individual psychology. The financial system is not designed to make the cost of waiting visible. Credit cards make spending frictionless. Subscription services normalize monthly outflows that feel small individually, but accumulate significantly. Consumer culture is built around the present moment, around having things now, enjoying things now, optimizing for current comfort, rather than future position. The architecture of modern economic life creates 1,000 small reasons to delay the one habit, consistent long-term investing, that most reliably builds financial stability over time. Daniel is not an outlier. Daniel is the default outcome of a system that never makes the true cost of waiting legible. Understanding this changes how you think about your own financial decisions, not because it makes you feel guilty for past delays, but because it reframes what you are actually choosing when you choose to wait. Every month of delay is not a neutral pause. It is a subtraction from the compounding engine that is either running for you or not running at all. The goal is not to panic, and it is not to make reckless decisions in an attempt to catch up. The goal is simply to see the decision clearly. To understand that starting with $100 per month today is mathematically superior to waiting 2 years to start with $300 per month, because the 2 years of compounding you preserve by starting now cannot be recovered or replaced by any amount of later contribution. The identity shift that comes with understanding this deeply is subtle but important. People who build wealth over time do not generally think of themselves as investors in a dramatic or sophisticated sense. They think of themselves as people who started, who kept going, and who did not let the feeling of unreadiness become a permanent condition. The market does not reward sophistication as reliably as it rewards consistency and time. The most powerful financial tool available to any person is not a stock pick, not a real estate deal, not a side income stream. It is the decision to begin before you feel ready, because readiness as a feeling tends to arrive long after the optimal moment has passed. Time is the one financial resource that cannot be earned back, borrowed, or optimized after it is gone. Everything else in personal finance is recoverable to some degree. Bad investments can be rebalanced, debt can be paid down, income can be increased. But the compounding years you do not use simply disappear, quietly and permanently, with no alarm and no receipt. The cost of waiting is not a warning. It is just the math running in the background, indifferent to whether you were aware of it or not.